Here's a story from my youth. Quite long, so I apologize for that, but it's an occurrence I feel that you all would find interesting. I grew up poor, a trailer park in northeast Texas, the Piney Woods region. By trailer park, I mean this place was basically wooded with a shanty town of trailers and sheet metal homes. Most of my dad's family lived here, two of his three brothers and his parents. My mom's family lived in Shreveport, Louisiana, but we never visited them that much. My parents weren't like most people there. They married before they had me, and became parents at age 25 instead of the average of 16 in our trailer park. They lived there for two reasons, one being my father was an alcoholic who wasted away jobs and money, and the other being that we took care of my grandparents. I went to school and quite enjoyed being there, partly due to me wanting to escape what I experienced in the lake lot, as I called it since it was situated near the shore of a reservoir. I can tell you that the only way to get out of the place is through sports, with minor exceptions. I gained a cross-country scholarship to go to a college in New England, and I escaped the cycle that had consumed my father's family for years. So that's basically the context for the story. The uplifting story kinda ends there. The death of my uncle reminded me of an old curse my family would talk about. Not a curse on us specifically, but about the lake lot. The story exists in multiple instances. I'll tell each story on its own to make it more coherent. The first story is the events that happened before my time. These are what I grew up listening to and aren't as interesting as the personal stories, but bear with me. Story 1. In the lake lot, there's a lot of abandoned trailers. People come in with their trailer, shack up for a month or two to escape lovers, parents, or just get high for a while. When they leave, they often dump the trailers. They're mostly cheap prowlers or pop-ups that only run a couple of grand. Half of the trailers at the lot are either run-down seasonal homes or abandoned trailers. The permanent residents often make sheet metal add-ons to trailers to make them like home. East Texas engineering for you. Anyways, there was this one trailer, an old red prowler, that just kind of popped up on a year. No one knew who brought it in, but they never saw anyone leave, but the lights would be on. Most likely a meth junkie, so people left it alone. After 3 years, the trailer was run down, and a park handyman went down to see what was up since the lights would still be on at night. He went down there, knocked on the door, and apparently no one answered. The handyman, Mr. Koki, left, and that was that. Except the next morning, his neighbors found him with his throat slit. Now there is violence at the park, but aside from the abusive parents, exes, and the occasional junkie fight that results in a death, not much violence takes place. Eventually, people attributed it to whatever was in that trailer. A band of 3 or 4 guys went down there and broke in when no one answered. What they found, I do not know. Rumors range from bodies to voodoo books to an old witch. The man wouldn't say, but they drove to the police to report whatever they saw. It must have been important. But they died in a brutal car crash on the way there. Hit a gator basking on the road, and the truck they were in slid into a tree. 2 men flew out the front windshield, and the third smashed his skull against the dashboard. After that, everyone in the lot stayed away from the trailer. It gained legendary status, and no one messed with it except for some dumb kids who would only go up and poke it or toss a rock. Adults never went near it and told everyone it was haunted, and an old man lived inside who would eat you if you get too close. That's what I knew growing up. The story, along with other little legends, up to this point, it's not out of the ordinary in my opinion. But in the summer of 2006, when I first remember events pertaining to the trailer, I realized it was quite different. The year 2006, my cousin Shelda and I were playing outside hide and go seek or something. We never went far, but the dense woods and empty trailers made for many good hiding spots. My favorite was an old hollow tree trunk. If you looked out the back, you could see the prowler. Well, we referred to the haunted trailer, as since that's what the company made it. The prowler was about 40 yards behind my trailer, across one road, one trailer, and some woods. While we were playing, I saw a man enter the trailer. a young guy in his 20s in a black hoodie and jeans. I didn't recognize him. This was odd because I was that annoying kid who always started a conversation with people. And since my dad was always passed out drunk and my mom was working at a grocery store 30 minutes away, I talked with anyone I could find once I came home from school. My cousin found me in my usual spot and noticed I was looking off at the prowler. She asked what was going on. I explained, and we both crouched and watched what would happen. The man opened the door, it wasn't locked, and nothing else happened for about a minute. Then we heard a gunshot. Being in Texas, we were used to the sound of it, especially in our hick trailer park, where drunk people often fired off a round of excitement or two. But one of the windows broke, so we knew it came from the inside, and after a few more minutes, the man who entered never came out. We told our parents. They were mad for us even looking at a prowler. They called the police. None of the neighbors would dare check it out. Police came, yellow tape, more cars, ambulance. They came over to my grandma, the neighborhood watchman of the lot, and mumbled to her for a bit. Later I found out that the dude walked into the trailer, sat down crisscross on the floor and blew his brains out with a shotgun. They didn't remove the trailer for some reason. Cops kinda hate us. We're trailer trash that clogs up their weekend nights with domestic violence and drunk antics, and many ex-cons live here. No one knew the man who killed himself, blew off any dental records he had, and had no ID on him. Fingerprints weren't on a file either. We don't keep track of people here unless they go to jail. There were rumors, of course. The man went there to sacrifice himself to some cult god. He was a junkie who simply snapped. His lover, parent, family member owned a prowler at one point. Either way, it only reinforced the taboo around the prowler. Story 2. This event took place about 2 months after the first one in the fall of 2006. One day, I came home from school. Mom was at work, Dad was God knows where. Got inside the trailer, turned on the TV and started doing my homework. Dad comes home about 30 minutes later, as usual, drunk as hell. I can tell he's in a violent mood. Hard liquor makes him pass out, but too many beers and he likes to see how strong he is. He staggers towards me and I run outside. Maybe this is where my cross-country skills first developed. I run to a spot on the lake shore that I always go to, through dense woods so my dad can't catch me. I come home an hour later and he'll be passed out. The prowler happens to be near the trail I take to get to the water. On my way back, I notice something. There's noise coming from the trailer, like a TV is on fairly high volume. I can't make out any words, but the noise is obvious. I keep my distance. I wait for about 20 yards away and slowly make it back towards the trailer. The buzz from the trailer gets louder, turns into a static noise. The static gets very loud, like a tree full of cicadas in the summer. I'm mortified and stumble backward. Suddenly, the windows of the prowler shatter, except for the one that was blown out, obviously. Right after they all shatter, the noise stops, then silence. I stand up and run back to my trailer and never tell anyone. But that event scared me for life, and I never even looked at the prowler for about a year. Flash forward to 2008. My friend Wyatt and I are playing with a few other trailer park kids. Probably 9 of us in total. What's important to keep in mind is that one of the boys was notorious for killing animals and scaring us by leaving the carcasses on our porches. He was 2 years older than us and went to jail basically right when he turned 18. So we were playing manhunt, really just chasing each other around, no rules basically. It was fun, our school routine when it was nice. I'm following Wyatt around. He was a year older than me and knew the park much better. I was fast. We were the perfect combo. When someone saw us, Wyatt would run and I would try to distract who was chasing us. I'd let them get close, then outrun them, and eventually track down Wyatt. So this exact thing happened, and once I escaped this kid, I went looking for Wyatt. We had set up places to meet up, so it made it easier. Based on my location, I figured Wyatt would be by his nana's trailer. About halfway there, I see a dead raccoon pinned to a tree. Its insides are torn out and are assembled in a neat pile on the ground. This isn't a normal work for the kid who killed animals, Lucas, but I wouldn't put it past him. I'm currently majoring in environmental science, so ever since I was a kid, this stuff just made me sick. I was one of the few kids there who cared about animals. Anyways, I ran away in a pretty sour mood, and when I see Wyatt on the porch of his nana's, something is up. She's out there with him. He's on her lap. When he sees me, he runs and says, "Did you see it?" I say yeah, and I feel bad for the poor raccoon. He gives me a puzzled look and then says, "No, I meant the boar." We look at each other confused, and his nana comes down and talks to us. We tell her what we saw, and then another kid comes running down the street. He's one of the younger ones and is crying and whimpering, "Lucas!" Wyatt's nana knew about this kid, and we all thought we knew what was up. The younger kid found a mutilated raccoon in his hiding spot apparently, so we all went to find Lucas. Lucas was walking around looking for kids to tag, and when we found him, Wyatt's nana yelled about the animals. Lucas denied it, which is strange. He always admits it. He thinks it's cool to kill the animals, manly even. But he says he didn't do it. Tell us he can prove it. Takes all of us, Nana included, to a tree in the woods. Now how would I have done that? Lucas points to a deer carcass 15 feet or so up in the tree. Its head is gone, the blood is still dripping down. It must be relatively fresh. We all are at a loss of words, even Wyatt's Nana was in shock. Now you should see the head. Whatever guy lives in the old trailer took out the eyes and mounted the head on a stake in his yard. Lucas was new. He didn't know about the prowler besides the fact that we don't mess with it. Wyatt's Nana almost faints and yells in such a manner that even Lucas listens and tells us all to go home and to never go near the trailer. Later that night, my mom asks what happened. I tell her and she seemed scared. It shouldn't be this active. What? She realized she said too much. She said the animals, they got themselves into trouble. My mother was a smart and kind woman, but not a good liar. I knew it was a false. But I didn't push it. Part of me wanted to never know what she meant. I still don't, at least not completely. We stopped manhunt for a while, and activity related to the prowler stopped for a while. Maybe whatever it was that killed the animals realized it had been too active. People noticed it as well. I wish it stopped forever. Now these are a few things that didn't happen to me directly, but gave my family more reason to claim that the lot was cursed. Some involve my uncles being incredibly intoxicated, so the credibility is questionable on a few stories. During 2008, my uncle was addicted to meth. He would frequently leave the park for days at a time and wander back in and sleep off the high for a few days. Apparently one night, he wandered around the prowler and claimed he saw a banshee-like figure floating inside of it. Of course, none of us believed it, and I don't think any of you should either, but what did actually happen was that there was a very loud shriek. It sounded like gears grinding on a car, but an octave or two higher. My other uncle was on the porch of this trailer, sober, and heard the shriek and saw meth head uncle running away from the prowler, screaming about some witch. A few other people claimed they heard a shriek, and some even said they saw the prowler glow from the inside. My uncle overdosed about 1 month after this incident, adamant that a witch was haunting him. He didn't die, but after a month-long hospital stay, he entered rehab. He still lives at a lot, still does meth, but doesn't talk about the incident anymore. In 2011, my older cousin, 21 at that time, was hanging out with his girlfriend at my grandparents' trailer. They were both drunk and she talked him into showing her the prowler. They didn't go in. Apparently, weird noises scared them away after getting quite close, and both were spooked for the rest of the night. 2 days later, my cousin's girlfriend killed herself. He said he couldn't find any explanation. He blamed himself. He thought the prowler was responsible. Aside from these two instances, most family experiences related to having bad luck if you get too close to the prowler or angered it. I guess by throwing rocks at it, as my uncle did, the bad luck wasn't too major. Broken bones, miscarriages, getting fired, stuff you can associate as collateral for being white trash and an alcoholic. I pass this off as an excuse for their dumb decisions, but I'm gradually becoming more and more convinced. Story 3. Okay, this is my last story in regards to the prowler. It happened last year when I visited my mom while I was at a cross-country meet in Austin. I was spending the night at a trailer with my parents. Dad was home, seemed to be sober, which was unusual. My mom was on the edge. I asked why. She said she heard noises coming from the prowler recently but was too afraid to check it out. My dad as well, and he said he was guarding the house with his ratty AR-15 till the noises stopped. My father wasn't a good shot when drunk, hence the soberness. I was too scared as well. We all felt the power the prowler had. I decided to stay one night instead of two, but should have left then and there. Night falls, catch up with my parents. One of my uncles is in jail again, his third DUI, and one of them was slowly dying, his liver was failing. He recently passed away last month. We don't say it, but I know they want to say that the prowler has cursed us. An argument breaks out around 9:30. My cousin decided to crash his car and everyone was yelling about what should happen. Typical white trash drama. I decided to go for a run. I remember why I decided to go to college so far away. It's barely light out, but I don't mind. I still remember every inch of that place. I see a figure in the road though. I can't make out any clothes, it's just a sleek shadow. I slow down and yell out, "Evening." I knew most people here anyways, and if it was a stranger I was curious as to why they were out here. No response. I stop and stare. Something wasn't right. The figure isn't facing me and I realize the proportions are out of whack. The feet seem to blend into the pavement, they just morph into the street. The arms are way too long and the back is horribly hunched. It almost looks like it's on all fours. I realize it's too late and as I start to run around, so does the figure. The faces of every animal at once. 1 second it's a deer, then a snake, then a human. Every face is blurry and decomposed though, very hard to describe. The face changed every second or so and seemed to be organically flowing from face to face. The body was black and with no form or substance, just shadow. The figure levitated towards me and I ran. I heard a shriek like 1,000 kettles whistling at once. I was in flight mode, absolutely flying down the road. I didn't turn back, but a sense of absolute dread told me the creature was close. I saw my parents' trailer and I knew I was almost there, but the creature peeled off, stopped following me. I was dumbfounded. I stopped for some reason as well and watched it glide into the woods. It went towards the prowler and literally went through the wall like a hologram. Still, the door opened and slammed for some reason. The prowler became illuminated with a soft green light and then it ceased soon after it started. I was in shock. I went back to the trailer and told my family. They didn't seem that surprised, but they said bad luck had to follow. Nothing really happened though. I left the next day and tried to convince them to leave. They wouldn't, of course. One thing alcohol and drugs hadn't been able to alter was the stubbornness of my family. I just told them to stay safe. I flew back to college a few days later, lost my suitcase. Maybe that was the bad luck. Maybe it hasn't happened yet, who knows. But something is up with the prowler and I don't want to know what it is.